Go to Coach.
Patrick, it's on.
The New Orleans Saints post-game show here in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, presented by Verizon. I'm Caroline Gonzalez, joined by Todd Graffinini and John DeShazier. Excuse me, it's been a long night. Unfortunately, the Saints did fall to the Miami Dolphins tonight, 16-13, going 2-2 in preseason. Fellas, we heard from Sean Payton a little bit ago. We might hear from Teddy Bridgewater, Taysom Hill. Not sure of the players coming from the podium, but we'll surely get that to you as soon as we can. Guys, we saw a lot of Teddy Bridgewater tonight. We saw a lot of Taysom Hill, especially in the preseason. What were your overall thoughts of Teddy Bridgewater so far in this preseason?
Well, I mean, I thought he was pretty sharp. Outside of the Chargers game, I thought when he was ill, really did not look very good. But I thought against the Vikings, he was sharp. I thought he was sharp here tonight in this game. He's been the guy that the Saints thought they were getting when they signed him up to be the number 2 quarterback. So I think he's been proficient enough to hold on to that job.
He had a big drive at the end of the half, Caroline and JD. Big play to Lil Jordan Humphrey, big 43-yarder right down the middle field. Outstanding throw, good catch. And then thread the needle for the touchdown to Emmanuel Butler. I know we've been waiting for it the entire preseason. Teddy Bridgewater to pick up his first touchdown, which he did. And, of course, we've been waiting for Emmanuel Butler to do something, and it was good to see that. So good way to end the first half, and you thought had a chance to win the ball game late with a good drive from Taysom Hill. Just ended up 6 yards short. But, you know, I thought it was a pretty solid final game of the preseason. Nobody got hurt. We got out of here in about 2.5 hours. Well done prior to the game on that call. But I think that's a good way to end the game. You'd like to win it, but oh well, let's go to Houston.
It's preseason, now time to fine-tune things. Obviously, we go into this next week. The Saints will cut down their roster from 90 players today, and then they'll have to be to 53 by the end of Saturday. Going into this game, tough go for the beginning of the game for the Saints defense. They went down 6-0 due to field goals. Then the offense, like you said, gained some traction with Teddy Bridgewater, Lil Jordan Humphreys, making big plays. I'm not afraid to use that reference, Todd, because Lil Jordan, you have to have some fun with that name. And then of course Emmanuel Butler, who I think everyone kind of had a sigh of relief because he did have a great training camp, but then you wanted him to perform in those games, and finally he did so.
Well, he looked great in training camp practices. We saw him drop a few in games, and those are the things that concern you because one of the questions you would have is whether or not the arena is too big for him. When you have those kinds of drops, then you say, okay, maybe he's a little bit ahead of himself. Maybe the competition's a little bit too much. Now, he did come back with some nice catches. The touchdown catch, I thought, was a great read by Teddy Bridgewater. You catch your big receiver on a smaller cornerback. You throw him a fade. He ends up with the touchdown. So I think he came on strong. But, you know, the drops are always going to concern you, especially the wide open, uncontested drops.
Once again, we heard over and over again, Taysom Hill keep. You know, we make a joke about it, but it is what he does. He is great at making those plays when he needs to. Are you confident so far? Obviously, Drew Brees starting quarterback. Are you confident with Teddy Bridgewater as backup? Are you confident with Taysom Hill, if need be, on a need-be basis at any position on this football field?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Saints have the best quarterback room in the league. I mean, I don't think there's any team that feels comfortable saying we're 3 deep at quarterback. In fact, a lot of teams will only keep 2 quarterbacks, but the Saints confidently can say we've got 3 guys we believe we can win with.
I think the bottom line is, you didn't know exactly what we were going to get out of Teddy Bridgewater this training camp. I think with a full off season and a full preseason, I think it's pretty evident that if need be, Teddy Bridgewater can lead the team. I think there's no doubt about that. And I think we've seen enough from Taysom Hill where in a pinch, I think he could do it too. Hopefully you don't want to see that, but I agree with JD. It's pretty much a luxury to have 3 guys in that quarterback room that can lead the team and get points if you had to.
Speaking of seeing enough, we didn't see any of Deontay Harris tonight. It was only Cyril Grayson Jr. on kick returns, on punt returns. So do you think the Saints are confident in what they've seen out of Deontay Harris for this point moving forward to say, this is our guy, this is who we want to have on our special teams, returning punts, returning kicks?
Yes.
Long story short. Great. Thanks for the analysis, JD. I appreciate it. We did see Ken Crawley on defense tonight, along with Patrick Robinson, who did exit the game with an injury. Of course, we'll hear more about that later on this week. But Ken Crawley, Patrick Robinson, you did see a lot of C.J. Gardner-Johnson tonight. Are you happy with what you've seen out of the Saints secondary moving forward into the season? Obviously, last year, due to P-Rob's injury at the beginning of last season, caused some things to shift, right? So are you more comfortable this year with the Saints secondary going into week 1?
Yeah, I think the camaraderie is there, the chemistry is there. I'm extremely impressed with the starters from what we saw. Again, it's preseason, so it's difficult to get a great gauge because nobody's game planning right now. Everybody's kind of running vanilla stuff. But even if you're running vanilla offense and vanilla defense, you still got to cover a guy. And I think the number 1 defense did a very good job of that when they were on the field. That's what's encouraging, and you hope the backups can come along.
Yeah, the problem tonight was the Saints defense couldn't get off the field on 3rd down. The Dolphins were on the field a bunch in that first half especially. But it's all about a pass rush. And just getting back to your cornerbacks, DB's question, all that goes hand in hand. Your defense, especially the ones, you can generate that pass rush up front without having to send guys, especially the linebackers. That's how your defensive backs get better. So it's all, look, I think we've seen enough from those guys in the back that they've got the capability to make plays, but getting that rush up front is going to help them considerably as the season moves forward.
Hopefully we will be hearing from Taysom Hill and Teddy Bridgewater soon in the press conference, but until then we will keep you right here on the New Orleans Saints post-game show. Guys, we've talked about it all of preseason. Just because you don't make the Saints 53-man roster does not mean you will not make a 53-man roster on the other teams. We have seen the Saints go out and pick up guys from other teams in the past. That's how they've gotten Austin Carr. That's how they've gotten a significant number of players on this team. Do you think the Saints would shy away from that this year, or because of the depth they have, or do you see them going through with that?
No, on the positions where they feel like they're thin, they'll be looking all around the league. They might not feel great about the backup offensive tackle position. They might not feel great about the backup cornerback position, especially if Patrick Robinson's a little dinged up now. They might not feel great about your depth in certain areas, and if you don't feel great about that, we heard Sean Payton say it, okay, if you're a little thin at tight end, but you see a team that's heavy at tight end, they're going to release somebody who can play in this league. The Saints are going to put some people on the street who can play in the NFL, probably along that offensive line. They're probably going to have to do some things at running back because, I'm not sure if Devine Ozigbo is a starter right now, but he's an NFL player, and if he can't be on this team, somebody else might snap him up for their 53-man roster, the active roster, rather than the practice squad. So those are the things we'll be looking for.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see. Look, you got, 48 hours until the final cuts are going to be made. And, of course, you go through this last month watching every practice and watching every game, so you kind of know who's out there for the Saints. I'm very curious to see is what guys we've seen for the last month are going to be on other rosters in a few days because you've been watching them for the last month.
And I think that could happen with several of the players that the Saints have brought in for training camp. You talked about Cyril Grayson Jr. out here tonight. Just because, Deontay Harris looks like he's going to be the go-to guy does not mean he can't be a wide receiver on another team. Same with little Jordan Humphreys. He's made 2 exceptional catches here in the Superdome and scored some big plays and had some big plays for the Saints. So it does not mean that we will not see some of these guys on other teams. Guys, a storyline that we had coming into this season was the center position. Obviously, Eric McCoy was drafted in the 2nd round to fill that role. Do you think, obviously it seems like the Saints are pretty confident with him at the center position. Have you seen anything that would deter you any way or the other to think that he might not be ready?
No, they said he was strong. They said he was smart. That's the reason you draft him in the 2nd round, especially after Max Unger retires. If you draft a center in the 2nd round, you expect that guy to be able to play. He has come in and shown he can play. Is he going to have a little bit of rough spots from time to time? Of course he is. He's got to develop that chemistry with Drew Brees. Max Unger was a Pro Bowl center who had taken a lot of snaps with Drew Brees, a lot of time on task. So they had a smooth connection. Now, Eric McCoy's got to get that same kind of smooth connection. We've seen some rough spots in practice where some balls have been on the ground, and certainly you don't like that, but you hope that they can work all those things out.
JD, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to follow up that, and he did have a couple of rough patches, maybe a couple bad snaps, but you could argue, JD and Caroline, that Eric McCoy was the MVP of training camp. If you
sorry to interrupt you, Todd. We're going to
Where's
go ahead
Utah
and go to
trying to get to? So, what do we got?
A long drive.
Huh?
A long drive, right?
To get to Utah?
Just trying to get to it.
Well, I'm going to try to get home to watch it. Questions?
Talk about today's performance. This is the last preseason game, knowing that tomorrow you guys are going to be short.
Yeah, there's no different, mindset-wise, what we're trying to accomplish preseason 4, the other preseason games. I think trying to expose some younger guys. I was certainly trying to take advantage of being able to play quarterback before we start the season. So I think overall, looking at tonight and the body of work that we've gotten through the preseason, I think it's been pretty good.
Can you talk about the growth that you have felt from coming from the Packers and now being a Redskins fan?
Yeah. Look, I think being an undrafted guy and making that transition to the NFL, you don't really know what to expect, and everyone talks about you get to the NFL and everyone's bigger, faster, stronger. You don't really know what to expect and how you're going to fit in. And I will say, I had moments in Green Bay where I felt like, man, I fit in, and I've certainly came to New Orleans and I felt like I fit in. As far as my development as a quarterback, I feel like every year I'm getting more comfortable with my ability to play the position at a high level. And I think having 2 full off seasons and training camps with the Saints has been really, really big for my development. And then being able to learn and watch Drew play, and as he prepares for games, like I've been able to take all of that and put it into what I do as I prepare to play games. And I will certainly say it's modified because our preparation for a preseason game is nowhere near what it is for a regular season game. But just the embodiment of all of that has certainly led to me feeling proficient at the position. Yeah, I think so. I felt really, really comfortable. I would say, in 2017, my rookie year, I got here so late that the focus and emphasis was putting together a team that was ready to play week in and week out. And the reality was I just wasn't an emphasis in that. And then 2018, I was able to learn the system from the ground up, which was really big for me. And now, fast forward to now, I just continue to build on the foundation that I'd had from 17 and then really 18. And I feel like my understanding of the offense and being able to manage a huddle, go through different checks and the various responsibilities that are put on the quarterback in the offense, I feel a lot more comfortable in doing that. And I think that I'm able to play faster and make better decisions because of it.
Baseball players talk about playing the Babe Ruth. with knowing he's going to go to the Hall of Fame? Do you ever get that feeling like, yeah, we're just somebody's going to be remembered forever?
Oh yeah, every day. Every day. I think sometimes you guys know this, but everyone knows how good a guy Drew is, how good a player Drew is. But I will say, having the opportunity to work really closely with him and really become a close friend of his, I will say he's even a better player. He's even a better mentor. He's even a better friend than what you guys think he is. And so sometimes I have to take a step back and look at how valuable and how unique this experience has been for me, to be able to be mentored by one of the absolute best to ever do it. Is such a rare and unique opportunity and experience for me. It's something I definitely don't take for granted. Yeah, these are all bitter. These are always bittersweet weeks. I think as you look forward, there's a ton of excitement as we start game planning and preparing to play Houston, and then you look at this weekend and you realize that there's a big hurdle, and a lot of guys won't be here with us next week. So that's always a bittersweet deal, and it's the nature of the NFL. Everyone gets it, and it's a business first and foremost, and it's competitive. So it's bittersweet, I would say, through this weekend. But I would say overall, I think everyone's excited, looking forward to week one. Okay, thanks, guys. What, sorry? Well, I don't know what the score is right now. That might.
Welcome back into the New Orleans Saints postgame show presented by Verizon. I'm Carolyn Gonzalez, joined by John DeShazier and Todd Graffanini. I got it right this time. Unfortunately, the Saints did fall to the Miami Dolphins tonight, 16-13. But enough talking about the game. Let's go ahead and let you see some highlights from tonight's loss.
Right side of the field. Picked up the extra pass rusher. Teddy, nice move. And he goes down. Protection holds up, and there he goes. Deep down the middle, wide open and available. There's little Jordan Humphrey, the rookie on a Sunday.
Yeah,
and then play. Can they get these? There, hold, and a grab. Touchdown Saints. Emmanuel Butler, despite being held.
And these are great throw and catch.
That's a great throw by Teddy.
Great throw by Teddy.
They got the lead now, though. They're up by a point as we return to New Orleans.
That's what it is.
You are selfless. You care about the guy next to you more than you care about yourself.
Yes.
Taysom Hill making a miss. It'll be first and goal.
Is a fumble into the end zone. Is a touchback.
Rodgers, he's in. Touchdown Saints.
Well, it went from a touchdown went from not being a touchback to a touchdown.
Thanks for joining us again for the New Orleans Saints postgame show presented by Verizon. Again, the New Orleans Saints unfortunately did fall tonight to the Miami Dolphins 16-13 in their final preseason game of the year. They will go 2-2 in preseason. Guys, we've heard that this next 48 hours is going to be the most hectic time of the Saints year, aside from the NFL draft and free agency, of course. Are you expecting any craziness? I mean, I know you guys' Twitter fingers are going to be crazy over the next 48 hours, but are you expecting any craziness, anything out of the ordinary? I mean, it's Sean Payton, Mickey Loomis. You expect the unexpected, right? But are you expecting anything out of the ordinary going into this season?
Not really. I mean, if you put a pencil to it, now obviously it'd be a guess, an educated guess, but I think we could probably name a good 46, 48 players who are going to be on the 53-man. So now you're trying to figure out those last couple of players on the 53-man as well as your practice squad, and whether or not some of those guys at the end of that 53-man are going to come from another team. That's the unknown that we have no idea of. If, for example, a Green Bay had a player that the Saints want, and Green Bay releases that player, as they did with Taysom Hill a couple of years ago, then the Saints will pick him up. That's not on our radar. We don't know anything about that. But there are some guys out there who are like that. So, I don't think anything wild is going to happen toward the upper half of the roster.
Todd?
Yeah, just there's going to be some tense moments for those last few roster spots with, some of these rookies that were drafted that, have a chance to make the final 53. And, it's tough to say at the time, but if you don't make the 53 and you're on this team, you can't be discouraged because you could very well get picked up and still be in this league. That's how deep and talented the Saints roster is right now. And, look, Sean Payton and the assistants and the scouting staff, they got a tough next
I
couple
think
of
they know what
40
they're
hours.
doing. I think they know what they're
know
doing.
what they're doing, but it's tough
It is.
because there are a lot of good football players on this team.
Absolutely. Well, for all of your Saints updates, make sure you follow at John DeShazier and at NTGraph on Twitter, as well as download the Saints app presented by Verizon. For Caroline Gonzalez, John DeShazier, Todd Graffinini, thanks for joining us on the Saints postgame show presented by Verizon.